Watcher to 6 actual. Target is in the main house. You have execute authority.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
Top of the morning to you laddies, my name is Jack. Oh wait, wrong channel. How's it going troops, Jordan here, back again with another Modern Warfare loadout video. In today's loadout video, we are travelling across the British Isles as we become a soldier of the Irish Army in Modern Warfare multiplayer. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe, and without further ado, let's take a look at our mission briefing. This is going to be a military class setup based on the Irish Army. We're going to use intense training with Endured as well as our sharp eyes in order to spot and locate hostile forces on the ground. And by gearing up with our fierce weaponry and deadly equipment, we'll strike down our enemies before they get their shot on us. The Irish Army traces its roots back to the original Irish Republican Army, the guerrilla organisation that fought off the British government during the Irish War of Independence. A year after Ireland gained independence, the Provisional Irish Government began to recruit volunteers for a new national army. Moving forward to 1939, and the world was once again at war. Well, some were. Ireland remained a neutral country throughout the Second World War, to which the government called it the emergency. Despite this neutral stance, the Irish Army saw significant growth throughout the duration of the war, and this was due to potential invasions from either Allied or Axis sides. At its peak in this period, the army was made up of almost 41,000 personnel, with another 106,000 on reserve. Proceeding forward post-World War II, and the Irish Army began carrying out peacekeeping missions on behalf of the United Nations. These missions involved travelling to parts of Africa and the Middle East, including the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Lebanon and Iraq. But before soldiers are deployed out to these missions, each man and woman must undergo intense and fierce training for 29 weeks in order to become a fully trained infantry soldier, ready for the front line. Recruit training includes medical practice, radio operation, rifle marksmanship, unarmed combat, physical training and counter-IED, with of course weapons training with the service standards. In the last decade, the Irish Army have been deployed on numerous peacekeeping missions in Syria, as the Syrian civil war escalated over the next few years. One particular group, the 43rd Infantry, were tasked to serve as the Force Mobile Reserve for the United Nations' DOF, to prevent any further attacks between Israeli forces and Syrian rebels. But in August of 2014, the Irish Army got involved in a combat mission to save 44 Filipino UN troops, after they were captured by a rebel militia group called Al-Nusra. The mission was a success as there were 0 casualties on the UN side. But despite this achievement, it was clear the safety of the soldiers was absent, and as such, Irish soldiers were withdrawn back to the Israeli parts of Golan before the end of the year. 4 years later, and the Irish returned once again to the Syrian side of the de facto border, thanks to the Syrian government reclaiming rebel territory. And today in 2021, the Irish Army are split between defending Ireland from terrorism and continuing their peacekeeping missions in both Syria and Lebanon. So let's begin by taking a look at our primary weapon that we're going to be equipping. Soldiers of the Irish Army equip themselves with the Steyr AUG as their main primary weapon. The AUG first entered service for the Irish Defence Forces in 1989 and stands today as the current service rifle for Irish soldiers. We can see the AUG used in action from watching various documentaries and training videos of the Irish Armed Forces, so we're also going to choose this as our primary weapon for this loadout. There are some necessary attachments that we will be equipping for our AUG, as the base weapon in game has a slightly different configuration than normal, due to it being in the SMG category. So let's take a look now at these attachments. For our first attachment, we're going to choose the 622mm long barrel. The base AUG in Modern Warfare has a compact barrel, and as we're building the AUG to being its usual bullpup assault rifle, we're going to choose the long barrel. While this barrel extends out quite a bit, this attachment comes with a couple of useful benefits, such as increased damage range, better recoil control, and further bullet velocity. For our second attachment, we're going to equip the integral 3x optic. The standard AUGs that the Irish Army use come fitted with a Swarovski telescopic sight that allows for range precision when aiming. More recently, a newer AUG model called the Mod 14 has seen use by Irish Armed Forces, and this variant comes fitted with a 4x ACOG scope. But since we don't have a 4x ACOG available for the AUG, we'll stick with the classic telescopic sight. For our third attachment, we're going to choose the Recon Weapon perk. The recon perk lets us identify enemies at longer distances, and we're going to reference these Irish soldiers out on the front line, who are field trained to locate and fight off terrorists occupying territory and land. For our fourth attachment, we're going to adopt a rear grip, and the grip I've chosen is the stipple grip tape. The stipple grip tape provides us with faster aim and reflexes, which will also let us ready our weapon quicker for a swift attack. And finally, for our fifth attachment, we're going to switch out our Parabellum rounds for 30 round mags of 5.56 NATO firepower. The standard variant of the Steyr AUG uses the 5.56x45mm NATO cartridge for increased stopping power against hostile forces on the ground, and this is too reflected in game. In Modern Warfare, this type of ammunition increases our damage dealt against the enemy, furthers our effective range, and grants us some assistance with the AUG's recoil, so that's why we'll select this as our fifth and final attachment. So those are going to be our attachments for the AUG. Now let's move on to our secondary weapon of choice for this loadout. For our secondary weapon, we're going to choose the M19 pistol. The standard service pistol for the Irish Army is the Heckler & Koch USP. The USP has been in service for Ireland since 2007 and remains the country's top sidearm for its defence forces. Unfortunately, we don't have the USP in Modern Warfare, but we do have a similar looking pistol that also fires in the same calibre as the USP, the 9x19mm Parabellum. So we'll equip the M19 as our secondary weapon. But we're not going to go in bare bones with the M19, so let's take a look now at some attachments that we're going to equip. For our first attachment, we're going to choose a laser sight, and that is going to be the 1mW laser. This low lit red laser sight is going to help improve our hipfire performance in tight knit firefights, where aim time is not viable for finishing off the enemy. For our second attachment, we're going to choose fungible disabling. This specialised weapon perk will immobilise our foes on the go by slowing their movement down so we can line our aim on target and follow up with some easy quick shots. And lastly, for our third attachment, we're going to select the granulated grip tape. This granulated rear grip will boost our aim and steadiness and in turn provide us with slightly better accuracy so we can move in on hostile ground and kill the bad guys with ease. So those are going to be our primary and secondary weapons for this class setup. Now let's take a look at our perks and equipment that we're going to be selecting. For our first tier perk, we're going to choose EOD. The Irish Army take part in various peacekeeping missions across Africa and the Middle East. And as such, the Irish Army are always on alert for landmines, IEDs and incoming rocket fire. As part of the standard infantry uniform, Irish soldiers wear a special combat shirt that features body armour, and this is worn to absorb explosive shockwaves as well as to prevent shrapnel from entering the body. We can equip the EOD perk to reference this, as EOD protects us against enemy explosives to keep us alive longer, so that's why EOD will be our tier 1 perk. For our second tier perk, we're going to choose Hardline. Irish soldiers are always out on the front line, fighting in the war on terror and sacrificing their lives in order to protect civilians and HVTs from being killed by terrorists. To represent this, we're going to select Hardline, which will let us earn our kill streaks with one less life taken away. And for our third and final perk, we're going to choose Battle Hardened. Soldiers of the Irish Army wear military ballistic helmets to safeguard their heads from incoming gunfire and to absorb any bumps they may endure if they badly fall from higher ground. In Modern Warfare, we have the Battle Hardened perk, which features a military helmet, and in-game cushions the effects received from enemy flashbangs, stuns and gas grenades, so that's why Battle Hardened will be our tier 3 and final perk. Moving on now to our equipment, and for our lethal equipment, we're going to choose the frag grenade. M72 fragmentation grenades are commonly used by the Irish Army, and we can cut one of these grenades in-game and chuck them into windows and buildings to blow out any campers hiding from the fight. And for our tactical equipment, we're going to go with a smoke grenade. Smoke grenades are seen used by the Irish Army in their training videos and documentaries as a way of deploying temporary cover by blocking the enemy's line of sight. By throwing a smoke out onto the battlefield, we can use that cover to our advantage and move to a new location, so the enemy won't expect us when we return fire from a different vantage point. So that's why the smoke grenade will be our tactical equipment. So now that we've talked about our perks and equipment, it's time to finish off this loadout by taking a look at our field upgrade of choice, and of course our selection of 3 kill streaks. For our field upgrade, we're going to choose stopping power. Irish soldiers encounter severe hardship in training, and it's this training that makes these men into combatants, ready to carry out tasks in the middle of war. This disciplinary, combined with the power standard of NATO rounds, makes the Irish Army a deadly force to be reckoned with, and so because of this, we'll select stopping power as our field upgrade. Moving on now to our 3 selected kill streaks, and starting off with our first kill streak, we're going to choose the UAV. On certain operations, the Irish Army deploy UAV drones to locate and identify many pieces of intel. Intel like movement patterns of informants, whereabouts of militant hideouts, and pathways and routes for convoys to pass through. We have the UAV in Modern Warfare, which reveals to us enemy forces on our minimap for us to hunt down and kill. For our second kill streak, we're going to choose the cluster strike. The Irish Army's use of artillery is prominent, as they fire both the L118 and L119 105mm light artillery guns as their primary support weapon in battle. In Modern Warfare, we have the cluster strike, which sends a barrage of high damage mortar strikes around a laser designated zone, so we'll go with the cluster strike for our second kill streak. And for our third and final kill streak, we're going to choose the infantry assault vehicle. The MOWAG Piranha is a family of armoured fighting vehicles that are driven and operated by soldiers of the Irish Army. Approximately 80 of these armoured vehicles are in current use by the Irish Army, and their purpose is varied depending on mission needs. Some are armed with 12.7mm machine guns and Mark 44 Bushmaster 30mm cannons, while others are used as ambulances and reconnaissance. The closest kill streak to this is the Infantry Assault Vehicle, or IAV. So we'll choose this as our third and final kill streak. Combining our weaponry, perks, equipment, field upgrade and kill streaks, fight to defend Ireland, operate to keep the peace, and shillelagh your enemies. So troops, that wraps up my Irish Army loadout video for Modern Warfare. Next time you boot up Modern Warfare multiplayer, definitely give this class setup a try in game and crack open a Guinness. If you did enjoy this loadout video, then give the video a thumbs up, I would appreciate it a lot, and make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button as well for more loadouts in the future. If you have any friends who might be interested in this sort of content, then share the video around with them to help give my loadout videos and my channel more widespread exposure. And if you want to see behind the scenes previews of my loadout videos, you can follow me on Twitter at jordanxbrookes for all the latest on there. I've locked in my last few Modern Warfare loadouts that I'll be doing on the channel before Battlefield 2042 releases, so the next loadout will be based on the Afghan army, as I've read many of your comments asking for this loadout. So until the next video, I thank you all for watching, stay true to me troops, and I'll see you in game.
Okay, Father Jack, you next. Father Jack? Where's Father Jack?
The parachutes have gone.